The review of the reorganization of the government, if you can take a look at some of the graphics that we have in as far as what President Kenyatta has done. This is in accordance with Executive Order number 6 of 2019, the realignment of ministries, and the Minister of Water and Sanitation. Minister of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation is the new title. Initially it was just the Minister of Water. Then the Minister of Agriculture now remains with Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. The irrigation section has been moved from that ministry to the Ministry of Water. Then the Presidential Delivery Unit has been moved to the Interior Ministry. Previously it was working under the State House, under the command of the State House. The National Economic and Social Council has been moved to the National Treasury. This is the function that have been transferred. Then other transferred functions include the Kenya South Sudan Liaison Office, which has been moved to the Ministry of East African Community. South Sudan, of course, being a member of EAC. Then Public Service Performance Management Unit has been moved to the Ministry of Public Service, that will be monitoring how the government departments are working. Then something else?
Right, and this is what President Uhuru Kenyatta said in a quote: State Department for Irrigation is merged with the State Department for Water and Sanitation to establish the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. It goes on to say, State Department for Interior and State Department for Immigration, as well as Citizen Services, have also merged to establish State Department for Interior and Citizen Affairs. This executive orders that we saw the changes within the ministry. Mwangi Kiunjuri, the irrigation docket has been plugged. The docket moved moved to Water Ministry and has been blasted by the President publicly for how he's handled the docket as well.
Now, Simon Chelugui, who has been the Minister for Water, will be in charge of the irrigation docket, which has been moved from Kinjori's department, and he'll take charge of dams construction, as well as billions of shillings allocated to irrigation. So we'll continue to look at those. But even as we have this conversation, you see that the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Interior Affairs, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, now is in charge of the Presidential Delivery Unit. He will be coordinating flagship programs, as well as chairing the Cabinet Subcommittee on Development and Coordination of the National Government. And so the question I want to ask is, when you see some of these departments moved from the Ministry of Agriculture to the Water Ministry and the rest of the reorganization that we see, what is the President trying to do 3 years to the end of his term? Do I begin with you? Or let me begin with you.
I think this is a power donated to the President under Article 132, I think B and C, where it says that the President may direct the manner in which government functions are coordinated and implemented. And when you read Part C of it, it says that by Gazette notice, he may publish and assign responsibilities. And this is what is done. He's not done it for the first time. I think this is perhaps the third or so of those realignments. What I think should not be lost in all this is that the President, one, is trying to secure his legacy. And in the realignment, he perhaps has been able to view how certain ministries are working. And looking at the time that he has left, he perhaps needs to push things here and there so that the delivery of his vision is able to... and you've seen in the process that he has moved quite a bit to the Interior Ministry, and that tells you a lot about the confidence levels and maybe the lack of confidence from where he's moved the dockets.
Were the changes necessary?
It may be necessary. There are those who perhaps will also look at irrigation and where the Agriculture Ministry is, and from the point of view maybe of the President, he would be arguing that the person who is handling that docket perhaps has not been able to do a good job at it. There are those who look at the politics of it and say Kiunjuri has been politicking and going around here and there doing things that the President has said let's not do. And so maybe it may very well be that that docket has been taken away from him as a warning shot in all this. But lastly, I think what worries me then in the end is that you see when we were doing this dam issue and the scandal, you remember there are 3 ministers who've been mentioned into it. When we move dockets and departments somewhere along the line when there are issues and responsibility to be ascribed when there is a scandal. Where do we place it? I think there is a small problem that you end up in terms of consistency of who is responsible for what at what time.
Right. Honorable Muthiora, these changes that we are seeing within the ministries, how will that influence President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda?
Well, it strengthens the Big Four agenda. If you look at the agriculture part of it specifically, it is one of the major pillars about the food security. If you look at the other organization of government and the immigration, it was an independent and it had a full-fledged PS. You put it under the interior. It shows actually you want to be committed and coordinate the citizen registration and affairs under the interior. Then you have the delivery unit. It has been operating under State House. Now it has moved physically to Harambee House. If you look at the operation that is happening in Harambee House nowadays, the Tuesday meetings and the coordination of government, it is very little that is happening in the State House. So I think it was timely to move the delivery unit from State House.
Why do you say so little happening at State House? What information do you have?
What?
You said that so little happening at State House.
No. For example, ministers meet on Tuesdays under Matiang'i. The PSS meet on Wednesdays under the same Matiang'i. By the time they go to report even a cabinet of once a month, literally that is where you need your center of operation to be. So even that delivery unit, which is part of all these deliberations, need to be there physically. Yes.
So when you look at the running of these affairs as a citizen, do you see the possibility of improving service delivery at a time that you're reading reports about Itaro Dam, that there could be a scandal, there could be some people arrested in regards to the said scandal? 3
CSs involved as well.
Yeah, when functions are properly coordinated, delivery, of course, improves. And what I see with the restructuring that has just happened is that we are going to get more value for the same money that we were spending before. My only regret is that clearly some cabinet secretaries have proved to be incompetent. What the president could have done besides just the restructuring is sacking them, asking them to step aside, especially with the graft allegations we have over some of these leaders. Now, of course, if you look at the structure of government, for instance, besides the restructuring we have seen, we have, like, for instance, KCC, a parastatal that mostly works with farmers and is in the agricultural sector, being under industrialization. You see, clearly, whoever put it there was not looking at just delivery. There was something else that informed that decision. So what I'm happy right now is that the president seems to have gotten it eventually, and he's keen on delivering value to the Kenyans. Now, the people who have been allegedly accused of being involved in the corruption with regard to the dams, of course, what should follow is them getting charged in court and stepping aside, following what the president had said, that once a cabinet secretary or any state officer has been charged in court, they need to step aside. That needs to happen soon. But even as that comes to be, what we need to see is progress in the cases in court. And it's possible that these cases can be expedited, and I want to be very keen to give this information here that there are some young people, rugby players, who were involved in a rape case. And their case has been concluded in a record time, meaning that we do not have this clutter, this clogging, they say, in the judiciary, if we mean to deliver justice to our people. If we mean to do business, we can. And the same zeal with which they followed up this case should be the same that they follow up on all corruption cases, so that Kenya can achieve its full potential, because I feel we are onto something.
All right. We need to take a look at feedback that has been coming from our viewers at home in regards to all the discussions we'll be having. Let's have a look at that. Comment, you're watching from Eldoret. You say with a professional public service, Kenyans can be less doubtful about the government's plans and policies. Ordinary citizens are very obedient people, but get disappointed when betrayed by civil servants through corruption, sabotage, and blunted negligence. How can we wait for 2 days without even seeing a sign of a census official? This is in regards to our earlier discussion, and we were asking you how that process has been for you and your family so far.
Still on SMS line on 22422. This is Paul Masila, an elder in Karen, Nairobi. He says that I'm accompanying my area enumerator as required. My concern is the period this exercise will take due to the fact that it is taking over 20 minutes to enumerate one person. There are difficult citizens who pretend not to know why we are there even after our introduction. I assure you this exercise may take longer than planned due to the many obstructions that our enumerators are going through. And that's a fact. I witnessed it at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Several travelers did not want to be asked questions. You can take us through the next one.
Right, you don't say who you are, but you say we can't run from the truth. Jaramogi Odinga, Raila Odinga, their sons as well as daughters, Jomo Kenyatta, Uhuru Kenyatta, and soon their progeny will take the family of Moi as well. What do you call that? You cannot hang on to the same balance in a political space with these pedigrees. All right.
Of course, speaking to the contextual reality we have currently, but of course Muthiora Kariara believes that's not the case. As it stands in this nation, a hustler will have to fight his way out to achieve his or her dream. The president's sentiments were not honest. We've witnessed these dynasties taking over cooperatives, institutions, that is according to Heribert Tass.
All right. Still on feedback, Twitter, #Daybreak. Governor 254, you say we need to reject any politics that targets people because of race, social status, or religion. This isn't a matter of political correctness. It's a matter of understanding what makes us strong.
All right, so that's what we've been saying on Twitter. We thank you for tuning in and sharing your views. And the conversation continues online. Thank you so much, Malcolm Maora, Member of Parliament for Igembe North. Then Muthiora Kariara, the former deputy presidential candidate, and then Anthony Oluoch, Member of Parliament for Mathare constituency. Thank you for making time for us this morning.